Hey everybody, today we're focusing on the order of operations. The order of operations are the order that we do our math problems so that we can all end up with the same result. So you need a comp book or a notebook, a pencil, and no calculator for this. You want to be able to evaluate problems with the order of operations using all operations. So addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Let's get started. So we're going to warm up or review how to multiply. So this symbol right here, the parentheses, means multiplication. There are many signs that mean multiplication, but this is one of them, parentheses, or the dot, that means multiplication, or the X that you're used to. So this one, we multiply 7 times 3 first to get 21, and then subtract 2 times 4, which is 8. When we take 21 minus 8, we get an answer of 13. So this is how I would show my work. For number 2, PEMDAS, or the order of operations, parentheses come first, then exponents, multiplication and division from left to right, and addition and subtraction from left to right. I'm going to slow down in a minute and explain PEMDAS, but I don't see any parentheses. I don't see any exponents, so I'm going to multiply and divide from left to right. So I start and do 6 divided by 2 to get 3. This is addition. I see multiplication first, so I'm going to do that first because an M comes first in PEMDAS. I multiply 1 by 5 to get 5. And then I have the sum. I find the sum of both of them, 5 plus 3 or 3 plus 5, gets you 8. So your final answer is 8. And that is how you would show your work. In number 3, I see parentheses. So I have to do whatever inside the grouping symbols are parentheses first. 4 plus 1 gets you 5. I copy down that 10. And 10 divided by 5 is equivalent to 2. Now this symbol right here is also a grouping symbol. Whenever you have more than one grouping symbol, you do the innermost grouping symbol first. So you need to do this part first. So we're going to go ahead and solve that first. I write everything else down. I'm writing 3, the bracket, 9 times 2 divided by, and then once you solve inside the parentheses, those parentheses can disappear. So 10 minus 4 is 6. I have a bracket because my parentheses disappeared because I got a 6 out of it. Now I look at and I see again I have a bracket. That is considered a grouping symbol. You might think of it as PEMDAS or GEMDAS. Grouping symbols are parentheses or brackets. I'm going to do inside the brackets first. I solve multiplication and division in order from left to right. So I'm going to rewrite this as 3 times. 9 times 2 gets you 18 divided by 6. And then I come down here because I ran out of room. 3 and 18 divided by 6 is 3. And when I have a grouping symbol next to another number, it means multiply. And 3 times 3 gets you the answer of 9. If you're ready and you think you get this with just this quick review, go ahead and go to Magna Math Blasters. There's a link on the Week at a Glance, and there's also a link on the Power Center page. If you need more help, stay here and I'm going to continue. Why do we need PEMDAS? Why do we need the order of operations? These rules exist so that we can all get the same result and compare answers. We can all talk about the same thing. These are known as the order of operations. Go ahead and pause and write this down. This is good to have in your notes. I also have a sheet if you'd like for your composition notebook that you can make an organizer, PEMDAS, and then put some examples next to them. Some vocabulary words that you'll need to know are grouping symbols. They're brackets or parentheses or any combination of them. You always work from the innermost or the inside to the outside. You're also going to need to know what exponents are. Exponents are the little numbers up here. So 2 to the third means 2 times itself 3 times. 4 to the x, when x is 2, that means 4, and you're going to put a 2 in for x, 4 to squared. That means 4 times 4, which is 16. So if you run into the word exponent, that means the little number. That tells you how many times to multiply the base by itself in a power. Here is a basic example that I'd like you to write down on your notes. Pause the video and write this down, please. Now that you're ready, if it helps you, please write down PEMDAS, or if you'd rather, write down GEMDAS so that you know which operation to do first. There are no grouping symbols, so right away I can ignore that. There are no exponents, so right away I can ignore that. Multiplication and division always happen whatever happens from left to right. So I see division before multiplication, so I'm going to divide first. 12 divided by 3 gets me 4, and once I do an operation, it's the most correct to write down the rest of your math expression. Then you start over. I have subtraction and multiplication and addition left. So looking at GEMDAS, if you read from left to right, I have to do multiplication or division first. So I'm going to do these two first. So I keep the 4, and then I multiply 1 times 2 to get 2, and then I copy the rest of the problem down. Now I go back to my GEMDAS. I have multiplication done, and all I have left is addition and subtraction. I solve addition and subtraction in order from left to right. So I need to first subtract 4 minus 2 to get 2 before I add 1. My final sum is 3. 3 is your final answer. Let's write down a next example. This example has grouping symbols, so when you think of the word GEMDAS or PEMDAS, I'm going to go with GEMDAS, but you can also use PEMDAS, P to the E to the M to the D to the A to the S, PEMDAS, no stress. I see a grouping symbol, so I have to do my grouping symbols first. If it's not inside the grouping symbol, it comes straight down. So I have 20 minus 3, and I'm doing the innermost grouping symbol first. I'm going to do 5 plus 2. 5 plus 2 gets you 7. And as soon as you perform the operation inside your grouping symbols, your grouping symbol disappears. So now I have a bracket left over. A bracket is also a grouping symbol. So next I need to perform inside this grouping symbol. What is 7 minus 1? 6. Now I said earlier that when you perform inside the bracket, the grouping symbol disappears. There is a special exception. When it's touching another number, I have to write a times sign or keep a parenthesis so I know that this is multiplication and not the number 36. When numbers are touching, it is multiplication. Now I have 20 minus 3 times 6. I don't have any grouping symbols, I have no exponents, but I do have multiplication and division, or division. So I'm going to multiply or divide before I add or subtract. So I keep the 20, and then I'm going to multiply 3 times 6. The product of 3 and 6, that means the answer to a multiplication problem, is 18. Now I can find the difference. Addition and subtraction is always last, in order from left to right. So I'm going to solve in order from left to right. I'm going to take 20 and subtract 18 from it. I get an answer of 2. Our next problem also involves substitution. So please take a minute to write this problem down and then I'll explain further. So when you have variables or letters used to represent numbers and they give you a number that your variable is equivalent to, x in this case is equal to 6, we are going to substitute that value in for x. Substitution means replace. So wherever I see an x, I'm going to replace it with a 6. But you got to be kind of careful because if you just put a 6 up here, you'd see 36. So we're going to put a grouping sign around the 6 to protect it. So now I have 3 times 6 in the numerator. That's the top number of a fraction. And I'm going to also put the 6 for the x in the denominator, bottom number of a fraction. You don't technically need parentheses here, but I like getting into good habits, and so I always put parentheses around whatever I substitute. So now I have 3 times 6 divided by 6 plus 3 minus 4 squared divided by 8 plus 5. It looks like a super long problem, but you can do this. So the first thing I want to do is think of PEMDAS inside the parentheses. Well, there's nothing to do inside that parentheses, so I have nothing to do. Are there any exponents? Yes, there is an exponent right here. This means I need to take the 4 multiplied by itself twice. So I think to myself, well, 4 squared means 4 times 4. And 4 times 4 I know is 16. So I'm going to replace that 4 squared with a 16. I'm going to keep everything else exactly the same. So I have 3 times 6, which you could also write like this, over 6 plus 3 minus 16 divided by 8 plus 5. Now I think of multiplication and division. I'm going to do it in order from left to right. 3 times 6 is 18. Now in fractions, you always want to simplify the top and simplify the bottom before you divide. 6 plus 3 gets you 9. Minus 16, copy the rest, divided by 8 plus 5. I'm going to do this division first because when you have a fraction, it is division. 18 divided by 9. 18 divided by 9 gets you 2, minus 16 divided by 8 plus 5. I see division. I have to divide these two first. 2 minus 16 divided by 8 is 2 plus 5. Now I need to solve from left to right. 2 minus 2 is 0, and 0 plus 5 is 5. My final answer is the number 5. I have one more type of problem for you. It's a comparison problem. Whenever you see a box like that, it's usually asking you to compare both values. So the alligator eats the bigger number. What I'm talking about is if this is a bigger number, I'm going to evaluate this or solve this. I'm going to solve this side as well, and your alligator is going to be your greater than or less than sign. Greater than, less than, or equal to signs show comparison. Take a minute and write this down. I see a parenthesis, so I'm going to solve inside that parenthesis first. 2 to the 4th power means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 7. We are comparing that with 7 squared, which means 7 times 7, which is 49, divided by 2 plus 5, minus 1 plus 3. 11 minus 16. This is tough. You will most likely not see this problem, so I'm going to change this number right away to a 17. Can you do that for me? Make that a 17 because you're not going to be working with negatives yet. 17 minus 16 is 1, times 7 gets you 7. You're comparing that with 49 divided by 2 plus 5 is 7, minus 1 plus 3. Order of operations mean you're going to divide first to get 7 minus 1 plus 3. 7 minus 1 is 6 plus 3 is 9. So I'm comparing 7 and 9. 7 compared to 9, 9 is larger. So 7 is less than 9. Your alligator always eats the bigger number. So if you think of this like a big mouth, the mouth is always going towards the bigger number. So your final answer, you put a less than symbol here. Just need to remember that the alligator eats the bigger number. You can also insert grouping symbols to make it true. So you want to figure it out, you have to put parentheses or brackets in order to make the equation true. Pause this to write it in your notes. I would write this in your notes and then how to make it true. Please reflect on what you need more help with and ask for help. What are your takeaways and areas that you have questions on, and what are the most important things to remember? Please make sure to ask for help, and thank you for being here.